Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't had too many problems with the technology. I've had some, but it hasn't been anything ridiculous. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I was looking at something. Yeah, that will be saying that the whole time. Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yep.
All right. I want to talk about Matt's that video you did on Matt, the video Matt did on the whole the Matrix controls you.
Mhm.
Is that how you guys are interpreting that?
Um. Yeah. There's a huge aspect of the system simply does what it does. The way I look at it
Hold
is,
on. You know what? Look like you're going to get into it. Good. So
yeah.
why don't we just go?
I'm
Um,
I'm I'm recording from my end. I'll
okay.
probably air
Cool.
something on my channel, and we can sort of swap. Not swap,
Sweet.
but we can both air it on both of our things. And
Cool.
I think I'm recording already.
I'm going to come in and introduce you. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, what do I call you? Are you Mandela affected? I mean, you see this, right?
Yeah. No. I'm in it. I'm certainly in it with everybody else. I I wouldn't say I'm as much Mandela affected as a lot of people are kind of focusing on certain things that were present in their earlier lives and they're not now. I kind of it affects me on a broader level where the whole thing to me is flipped. It's not just Mandela affected or not. It's the whole
So
reality is upside
you're
down.
more of a flat earther.
No, I'm not. I'm a nothinger. Like I apply
All right,
no
cool, good.
concepts
So am I.
whatsoever.
I don't freaking know.
Or I don't know. Yes, because you take the basic premise that you're a creator, right? Very basic premise. Then you spit stuff out of your mouth, and you're already shaping your realm by the time you said the first word. So if you attach too much significance to something like flat Earth, then you probably are living on a flat Earth. You know, like it depends on how powerful you are.
We're going. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. So like if you're powerful, then you will manifest that along as a co-collective, right, with people who are vibrating with that frequency, in a sense. Not necessarily like straight out manifest because we're still kind of in the stuck sort of very physical layer, but we have all these things mentally. Like we know of the possibilities of things changing mentally, and Mandela effect is physically things changing through the passage of time, right? Because back in the past, the thing was one way, and now it's another way.
Correct. So, and I divide. A lot of people believe that maybe just shifting your consciousness through different timelines.
Right. I had a, an interesting thought before we started here. I was thinking about the premise of choice, right? That we all seem to have some sort of semblance of choice. I was thinking, with all the talk of the AI, what if every time you made a choice, it was just AI spits out a timeline that like Trump has been replicated to your new, choice that you made in your head, and all the other things have been slightly modified, but you've moved directly into an artificial timeline just by making that one choice. Well, like, oh, I don't want Trump around anymore, so you would shift over into that artificial one. I thought that was an interesting. I'm not saying that's the thing, but it would be an interesting theory as
No,
to sidestepping
like
like the
Matt
organic.
says, nothing's off the table.
Yeah. Right. Right. And just because, like, we've been talking about the sort of organic people, the real humans, whatever you want to call them, versus NPC or more robotic, more robotoid type people. And it would make sense if you're shifting into some sort of quantum computer generated reality that most of the organic ones aren't on that one because you shifted away from them. At some point, if you would dilute or whatever so much that you would be like the only organic one left, and everything else would be replication in some aspect.
I've absolutely had the same thoughts, same ideas that you shift away from people's consciousness. If it's infinite and quantum, They're off somewhere else experiencing what they need to experience,
Yeah.
and you're off doing your thing. If someone dies in your life, and this is a topic I wanted to get into, someone dies in your life, they die for you. Physically, consciously, they're experiencing a physical reality somewhere else.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I did put out a book, correct? I
I did,
published a book.
I did not. What's it called?
Yeah, it's called Mind Beyond Matter. It's on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle, 99 cents.
Oh yeah.
I'm probably gonna ship you
I'll put it in my
a signed
notes.
copy.
Yeah. Yeah. Please do.
But the thing is, and this has happened to other people as well. Um, for me, it was the impalement. I should have died. And after that didn't happen, and I'm like walking around like, what the hell was that?
When
Because I had no
a
mark,
tree
well,
fell
a
on
tiny
you,
little
or
pink
almost
mark
fell on
where it
you.
happened.
Is that what it was?
After that, I started to notice changes.
When the
You know,
tree.
I understood the Mandela Effect, and I had the Mandela Effect. I was checking out those conspiracies, the flat Earth stuff. I was investigating that stuff. I was on the fence with everything. And after that experience with the impalement, that's when everything kind of blew up for me. I started to see changes, had conversations with people that didn't take place. Orbs told me not to eat meat. I mean, for a year, I was
Orbs
just
told
getting
you.
all this paranormal, supernatural stuff.
Nice.
And one of the things other people have noticed is that they feel that there was an opportunity for them to die. Big car accident. Um, somebody, oh, my car flipped, ran into a tree. I
Yep.
survived. I don't know how. And then they started noticing changes. So
Yeah. I
instead of,
mean, yeah. That you have to think like if death wasn't real, so to speak, like, or else it wasn't just a drastic change into like a heaven or hell type scenario, then how would that transition happen? That's what you have to ask yourself. And if something like what's happening with you, like a tree almost falls in you, or whatever happened to you that you felt like you should
it's
have
happened
died.
to Matt. Matt said that about the tree.
Yeah, right.
Quantum of
That
conscience.
was hit. What? Tell your story, because I heard Matt's thing that happened to him, but I didn't hear like what happened to you.
Well, this is in the book. This is with the impalement. Um, it was 5 a.m. It was just getting light, maybe 6 a.m. It was just starting to get light out, so it was just a little bit of light coming out of the sky. I wake up. I just cleaned my room, utterly spotless, and when I'm just laying there and looking at this tiny little piece of paper on the floor. So I get up. I pick up this piece of paper. I get my robe, put my robe on. I don't tie it. I go over to the trash can. The trash can is empty. I am not going to put this tiny little piece of paper in that trash can. I'm going to go out to the street and put it out there because the dump, I swear to you, I just woke up. The OCD was strong. I
You
don't know.
you wanted to keep your trash can pristine. I understand.
Oh my God, it was unbelievable. So it wasn't a big trash can. I had to empty it
Yeah.
that day. So I walk out the back. The way everything's situated, I have to walk out the back, go out to the garage. I get to the garage door and I open it. Now, it's pitch black in there, except I can see a little bit of light on the other side of the door. And I figure I could shut the door and make it. Now, the light switch is right here, and I don't do it. I shut the door. I take one step. Now, everything happened simultaneously. I mean, my arm got wrapped up. This other arm wouldn't let go of the piece of paper in the pocket. The shovel that I propped up the day before was on top of my foot. I couldn't move my one foot. My knees locked up. Everything happened the way exactly how it was supposed to be. I mean, the chances are amazing. So my body is flat as a board, and I just go down.
Hmm.
I go down on the glass table that is on its side that I said the day before, I should move that. Somebody could get hurt. I did not move it in that timeline. So I land on this thing and I feel myself kind of go, and I'm like, what was that? My chin hits the ground. Now this thing is, let's see, what's a foot? Almost 2 feet off the ground. I'm on top of it and my chin's on the ground. How's that possible? It's not quite 2 feet, but
Huh. Yeah.
you know,
That
and
makes
I
sense.
can feel something, and I'm like, All right, that's not going to be good. So I get up on all fours, and I felt something really weird trying to get out my back. And it's all this stuff starts to go through my head. Um, it penetrated me. Did it penetrate me? I can't move my arms off the ground. I won't. I'm afraid. I figure there's going to be a lot of blood. Don't lose consciousness. Get to a phone. All this stuff is going through my head. I don't know how long I stayed there. But I just finally pushed my stuff up, grabbed my chest, flicked on the light. There was no pain, by the way. Everything was very uncomfortable, but no pain. Mm-hmm. I flick on the light. I can't see. It's bright. The light's blinding me. I'm trying to rip my brand new T-shirt. I couldn't rip this thing. I'm trying to tear it down, and I'm looking around at the same time. I see no blood. I'm pulling my shirt down, and as I start to get the shirt down and I see this tiny little pink mark, I noticed that the table that I fell on is behind a larger table, so there was no way I could have fell on anything. Nothing was where I fell. Okay? Granted, the shovel was still there, I believe, but there was no table. There was nothing there for me to fall on.
Yeah. And
there was nothing but a small pink mark here. Well, I got up. The things I noticed within a week, the heart changed places. The heart used to be here for me, and in that timeline, now it's here.
On the left? You're saying your heart's in the middle
It used
now?
to be here, on the left.
Yeah.
Now it's in the center of the chest.
Huh.
You didn't know that?
I don't know. I never checked.
Okay.
I don't even know if I have a heart. I feel something beating, but I don't really bother with it.
Maybe. I also got shorter. I was about like a half a centimeter shorter.
I think mine's still on the left.
That could age. I mean, I could justify most everything, except I started to notice Mandela effects all week. The older ones that I went back to, things started to hit me. And when I saw Berenstein Bears, meant nothing to me. I didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
After the impalement, it hits me that, I saw them. I saw them when I lived in Pittsburgh, and I thought, there's a new book out. And here, they've been around since 62. But for me, they just popped up in 12, and that wasn't until after the impalement.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, if we're carrying forward the computer-generated alternative timeline that you splice into, then it would make sense that it can't get everything flawless. If it got most of it right, then that would be probably good. I don't know. I don't have a ton of Mandela effects myself, but that's just because I don't hold things in my memory. Like I don't sit here and try and pay super close attention to what this and that logo looked like, although I have noticed some things that seemed wonky.
Like? Put you on the spot.
I'm trying to even remember. The Berenstein Bears versus Berenstain, I remembered it as Berenstein. And
Stein?
Yeah, I don't know what it is now, but it was Berenstein for me. But then there's also, with Mandela effects, there's pronunciation. So maybe Mom pronounced it Berenstain even though it was spelled Berenstein.
So you haven't studied the Mandela effect. You just stuck on your path where you realize there's something wrong with this reality.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to get to the bottom of it.
I mean, I was following quite a few of your videos when you were kind of like digging in that arena, and I was following it, but there's something with my mind, part of like traumas that I went through, a defense against sort of attacks was not holding things in the mind. It was remaining fluid. So therefore, when I come out on this side, I don't sit there and hold concepts that hard, because that enables a tracking system to get a lock on you.
You're talking Google and the
like what's called the parasite, as far as that's what I understand it as now. Like when it happened to me, it was under the guise of a weed experience, but it wasn't any weed experience. It was an entity attempting to co-opt, and I didn't realize it until afterward. But it was like an eternity of like that feeling you had when you were stumbling and you're about to hit the thing, right? and a little bit of like what's a little bit of slipping. Imagine that happening for 2 hours of Earth time, but it feels like an eternity. Imagine that. Like that's what my thing was, and so I somehow came out of it, but I realized that this slipping, this like that little thing that you're talking about, that is the signal or the outward sign of this parasite thing trying to lock your mental, so it can co-opt your it wants to co-opt your consciousness. You know, it wants to take over you and put you wherever in a house or a cage or whatever, and then use your energy field. That's how I understand it.
I'm familiar with those things, just not the way you described it.
Because it takes over completely. Like you're in your present moment right now. You're feeling like relatively okay, yeah. Like nothing's encroaching on your personal boundaries or freedoms or anything like that. Like you're decently all right, yeah.
Yeah.
This thing is literally your consciousness is stolen or grabbed, or it's like a mental rape. That's the only way I can describe it. And there's not if you've never experienced it, then you know it's very bad. Very bad.
I didn't realize that happened to you. I must have missed that video, or
Yeah, I mean I've talked about it quite a few times, but it took me 10 years to integrate that. I'm 33 now. That happened when I was in my early 20s, and that was the cause of all kinds of panic attacks through my 20s, because I thought it was a weed trip, and it wasn't a weed trip. It was something else. To me, it was something else. Like the other people I was with smoked weed, and they got regular weed high. But something else happened to me, and it took me 10 years to unravel that. And now we're here on the other end, and I'm sitting here and talking with people like you, people like Og, Lauda, everybody that I've been talking with. They know, like, I somehow gained a new way of speaking out of that experience that ties me in with everything else, with the projects, with the whole societal breakdown. Somehow that experience tied me in with it, even though, like, I'm not necessarily directly having memories, and I can't directly have memories because of what we talked about already. I mean, I can, but there's like a method that I use.
I see. Um, I'm going to almost back up. I want you to give me your definition of what this reality is, or what you think it is, what you've come up with so far through your investigations and videos and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for starters, it's impossible to know what this reality is, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
That's conceptual mind wanting to have a storyline that properly fits with all of this. So, and that was also, I learned that also in that experience, was that my mind wanted to grab. You want foundation. Your mind wants foundation. It needs some sort of baseline reality that it can, like, you know, it can go explore off and then come back home, right? Explore off, come back home. This thing takes all of the baseline away, and you're not ever coming back home. You're just cartwheeling off into the cosmos, or mentally, or both, emotionally. And then if something bad physically is happening, that just compounds, like, the horrifying nature of it. Doesn't really matter. The physical things happening didn't really have any effect. Like, I could have died 1,000 times and it wouldn't have any effect, because the essence of it was mental. It was mental, emotional trauma. But as far as, like, what is this current reality, as far as I'm concerned, it's supposed to be simply a co-collective creative realm where maybe we're from some other civilization where we wanted to, like, experience, let's have a 3D realm we can play with. We can make buildings, we can make civilizations, we can do this, that, explore, whatever, right? And then that got infested or, like, corrupted somehow, tainted with something invisible to us. And then also memory wipes happened, and also religions got inserted in, and everything happened, you know? And then all of a sudden here you are thousands of years later, apparently, and nothing makes any sense, and the world's upside down, and, like, goodness isn't goodness, and evil is pretending to be something reasonable, like in the form of corporations, and nothing makes any logical sense whatsoever. That's, to me, a very, like, the simplest way I can break down how I see this reality. And at the base of that, for me personally, is, like, once I regained my own personal control over this body, then it's literally my playground. It's nothing else outside of that. Like, there are not authority figures. They don't even exist.
How do you do that? How do you take control of your body, of your mind, of your reality? I mean, I've done it, and I've done it with just exercises, becoming conscious of myself, being within me. Um, I have spiritual exercises that I've been doing recently, and I finally feel like I am me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, I was letting all this out there affect me.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be that way.
No, it doesn't. That's something that you allow to happen, and you allow it to happen because you need something. You need a something. You need something to say, like, I am this. I am Suso. I am Gary. You need something. Your mind needs some storyline. Like, I grew up in such and so city, and here are my parents. You need something. But if that something is tied in with, say, the parental control structure, or handlers, if you want to call them that, if they are endorsing sort of the standard way society is being carried out, which is like robotic, and corporations literally means speaking dead into life. Like, if the majority of the population can't even take a surface cursory look at the upside down nature of the reality, then your mind is already going to have a split created at that point, and you're already going to be bipolar at that point. You're already going to be schizophrenic. Yes, just automatically. Like, that's a natural reaction of the mind when it's presented with that Orwellian doublespeak type thing. Is you make the split, and you create alters, and you have one alter that knows about the dark side, and then one alter that pretends life is all peachy and fuzzy all the time.
I like to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I wanted to talk about. Something that Quantum of Conscious brought up. Something that you brought up in your last video, about the Matrix, we'll call it that, has power over you. I don't believe it controls you. I believe we let it control us by default, because we accept out there the news, media,
Yeah.
the lies, and as a collective, that's what's being created, because most people accept that as truth. Physical reality is solid and linear,
Right.
where it's not. But now Matt said, well, nobody in the Mandela Effect community, and I'm not quoting him, I do not know verbatim on this is just what I took out of what he said, that most of the people in the Mandela Effect community are not doing real well right now. They're not having a happy-go-lucky life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm totally there on all rainbows and unicorns, but I'm doing okay. I'm consciously focusing on what I desire, and when I get rid of the everything that's defined, like it has to be blue, or it has to be this long.
Yeah.
When I get rid of that, and I'm vague, that's when things happen. When I don't have any investment in what I want to create, that's when things happen.
You're describing the
I've
same
slowly
thing.
done it.
You're describing the same
Huh?
thing that I was describing. That
Just
slipperiness.
different words.
Yeah, it's different words, because that's the machine itself. Like, this use of concepts. You said vague. Okay, you're countering that. You're opposing that with the use of concrete concepts, right? That's the opposite of vague, and that's the way. Even if you look at the court system, they take concepts that they have sharp edges, and they slice you with them, right? It doesn't matter what so-called happened. It never matters what happened. It just doesn't ever matter. It matters who can argue the better argument with their word swords. You know?
Yeah, well, that is what I'm saying. We allow them. We create our reality by default, because we take in what they're showing us, the other people, whatever, the negative, whatever. And that's why when we're saying, well, nobody's doing really good, I've been experimenting for this for a while, and it seems to be working for me. I still fail.
Yeah.
When I try and go out and create something, I still fail. And I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? Because that worked. And I'm thinking, well, when that worked, I forgot all about it. I wasn't thinking about it, dwelling on it.
The
It was
worry,
over. I put that creation out
yeah,
there.
the worry
What's that?
is a huge part. The worry is a huge detractor from you actually being able to create. Just the worry in and of itself. That's how people get sick.
Agreed.
Yeah, they can. You can have cancer because you're worrying about having cancer.
And what's going to happen as a collective once we understand how to create properly as a as individually first, and then as a collective, it's not going to be a problem. And I see that kind of happening now. But you need to apply.
You have
You
to
need to
apply
apply
it.
yourself.
You have to apply it universally, and I mean everything. Because some people are like, well, let's just apply this here and there. But when we talk about, God, like God is this certain fixed entity thing, you have to apply it universally because when there are arenas of consciousness that you can get into where everything is manifesting, like all concepts that come out of your head are manifesting, all everything is manifesting, the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything, the heaven, the hell, everything's trying to manifest at once. And if you don't have, I've said this before, if you haven't found that like 0 point, that still point within you that is not moving, that within which or from which manifests everything, then you're gonna go cartwheeling down into this just I don't care if there's hell in there and heaven at the same time. If you have both happening at the same time, it's just pure chaos, and your mind can't handle that. So it's very important here in this realm where everything's kind of sticking together nicely to do self work. You need to try manifesting in a small way. Just say like I want to go. I would like to eat cereal. Okay, see how thoughts come in to help that happen. See how your body decides, timing and whatnot, walk out the door, grab dollar bills, plan a little bit, see how it happens. And then when you come back, like Robbie did this with donuts, I was like, Robbie, envision all these things you want with the donuts, hold in your mind that you wanted donuts, and then when you come back 25 minutes later, imagine that you never left in the first place, like you never got up from the chair. That's instant manifestation. It's just that you removed the, because by now that walking to get the donuts and coming back is purely mental, right? It's no longer physical. That has become a memory in your head which you can drop, and then you can have instant manifestation. There are definite ways to play with it.
That's something I said. I said, look, you could just, and it's different words. That's all it is. You shift your consciousness, your focus into a timeline where the apple was already in your hand.
Right.
You're not manifesting an apple. You're just shifting to where it was already there.
Yeah. And this is something we are remembering. We're reconstituting this body of knowledge where I promise you we had the ability before, but there was some sort of a fall. There was some sort of a disaster or whatever. And like Og says, or a few other people, even Max Spears said this, he said everybody knows each other. It's just that like this situation came out of this other gigantic issue situation, and everybody forgot who they were, basically. But it's like, if you have innate knowing and knowledge within yourself, then you've been around. It's not like this is your first rodeo. You just forgot about it. If these things come in, this intuition and stuff like that.
That's come to my attention. Why all the amnesia? Okay, so one of my thoughts was, well, we've done this 30 billion times, starting to get routine. What can we do to change it? Take everybody's memory away. Now let's see what happens. I mean, that's come to my mind.
Yep. And, the idea, you have to like include warfare, just the idea of warfare. And I don't mean like grab guns and shoot at each other. That's not warfare. I mean the totality of your mind and what it's capable of. And then you're like, it's like a chess game, but on all of the levels, on psychotronic levels, on timeline hopping levels, on anything your mind can imagine levels. And then imagine that two of these beings are pissed off at each other. You know what I'm saying? This is the kind of level of warfare that we would be looking at if they were to say not follow Jesus' rule that says like be nice to each other. Then you'd have just crazy shit happening, and you'd have, if sort of translation of the body from one place to another, demolecularization and remolecularization. If somebody fucked with that, then you have people merging with telephone poles and boats and things like that. Like, this stuff has happened because people are, because of selfishness, really, it's like ego stuff and fear and everything else, but it's all, it comes back to a matter of like basic responsibility and control over your own powers, and if you have not yet gotten that, to me, this time around, you're not getting it back until you're ready for it. You're going to be stuck.
We're stuck in a lot of things. I think there's a lot of people stuck in the Mandela Effect. I was one of them. I probably still am. I realize after talking with other people, people have been experiencing the Mandela Effect 30, 40, 50 years and just calling it something else because they were intuitive. Like Bernadette Dickinson, she's the one I spoke with my last interview. She's had it. She's had it happen to her, and she eventually came to the conclusion that her consciousness is just shifting to another timeline. She's noticing changes in history. But she, to me, she kind of, it was like no big deal. There were so many other things going on with her, she couldn't really worry about that.
Yeah, right.
She just understood that's how life was.
Right.
And I could see that, like, from a, if I have a soul, if I am a spirit, I can see that's how I'm creating motion, time, consciousness, by shifting my consciousness every nanosecond, thousands and thousands of times every instant, just shifting, moving time. A death occurs, now I'm on another timeline. But that timeline, somebody that I know died, didn't die, so my memory's got to get messed with, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, it's something like that.
I'm sure I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, there's the idea out there that computers at some point become so powerful that they can create like a whole universe, like a mental universe, and extrapolate out all the possibilities of all the choices of all the beings and all the everything, and they simply have that. And even the fact that that could possibly exist, anything that can exist, automatically affects the collective. No, I don't care what you're talking about. If the ability of quantum computers have generated the ability to predict like social movements, political movements, anything, then that's gonna play directly into our lives somehow, and I feel like that is currently happening. And people,
what's that?
People, imagine a kid gets a hold of this machine that he can plug in like such and so. Like, what's gonna happen if I try and steal $50 from the bank? And then the computer's like, well, you know, if you do this, this, and this, you'll get away with it. Like, just imagine if it got into the wrong hands and what would happen there.
Have you noticed anything recently going on a little stronger?
Yeah. This whole last 2 years for me, it's been like a different dimension every month. Like, as far as people I've been interacting, people come in and out of my life. I'm mentally constantly like either upgrading or something, because I'm always doing my self-work. I'm always doing meditation, constantly doing breath work, staying present, being vigilant, watching everything, you know, watching what's happening on the channel, watching the pulse of the people on the social media. Like, it's changed a lot recently, in that this whole thing of like, we don't even, you know, you mentioned one thing that everyone here in this community takes as like basic knowledge to like a computer type person, and they normally would have a fit of rage because you dared like question that. I don't see that happening as much. I can talk to regular people coming in my car, you know, like Uber and Lyfts, about whatever, you know. A couple days ago I was like, we were having a conversation with these guys from Australia, and we were just talking about how the realm is upside down. I said realm. They're like, yep, you know, it's the style of language, and if you get in there in attacking style, okay, you bring out the triggers. It's like the Christian, the bad form of Christianity that gets made stronger by being attacked. Like, we have to take that same tone when we're trying to introduce this idea to other people, because their triggers are going to go off if you're like, hey man, like, you know, we live in a realm, we live in a flat earth. You can't shove that shit down people's throats.
No, and I've seen that at the bar when I do interviews. You know, I bring up a change, and people snap. It's like they
Yep.
accept the download and just go into total attack mode or defense mode. They get angry.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to find a way to introduce that knowledge seed. Like the way I carry myself now, I don't ever attach like anything to it. Like if I'm talking to my dad, I'll be talking the same tone as if I'm talking to you, and if I'm talking about realm or world, I'm using the same tone. So like they're not getting that trigger, that emotional trigger signal, and they just automatically like slip in with my thought stream, and then it's not traumatic for them. They can literally talk about it.
These okay, the event. You've mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it on YouTube and whatnot. Um, these supposedly energy waves coming in. That's why I asked, have you felt anything? Have you, it's every once in a while the Mandela Effect community will go, well, there's definitely been a change. I could feel it. For me, I would all of a sudden start getting angry. I would accept the thoughts that weren't mine and just get angry and depressed, and everything would be a problem around me. And then I'd wake up one morning and everything would be incredible, beautiful.
All right.
How come I didn't know a shift was going on? I mean, because it's happening all the time. When I get like that now, I'm blocking it off. Now I have my tools and I know what I'm doing, so I can block that off. I still accept the ringing in the ears. Do you get that?
Sometimes, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I get the ring. Sometimes I get like a side will just like dim out as far as the audio, like it will just like like something covered up my ear. Um, I mean, I had an experience. I didn't tell a lot of people about it, but I was in San Francisco.
Oh, we got an exclusive here.
I was driving in San Francisco, and you guys, whoever's listening, can go and verify this with the video that I made because it was directly tied in with it. I think I told Lauda this story, but this it was called. I probably have to look it up. What the name of the video was? It was like a month ago. Um, I was talking about AI.
Okay.
Smash. Blah blah blah. It's coming. It's coming. Okay, it's called Consider This. It's 1 month ago. It's about 16 minutes long. Title is Consider This, right? Now, I had been driving in San Francisco. I was not picking a passenger up or anything. I was just driving, waiting for the call to get a passenger. And I had this idea that I wanted to make a video about. And the idea was basically about AI becoming sentient, like how that would look from the perspective of the AI and from the perspective of humans that are seeing the effects of that happening on the realm, right?
Interesting.
And as I was starting to make this video, even beforehand, I had this energetic thing. Like I felt that the video was gonna either gather attention or it was gonna be controversial. I felt impending something or other, even as I had the idea to make it in the first place and as I was making it, right? So I just made the video, I gave all my thoughts on that topic and that idea, and I was on Market Street, gonna turn left onto Franklin. Whoever's in San Francisco knows what I'm talking about. I was going east, I guess it's northeast on Market, gonna turn left onto Franklin. I'm finishing up the video, right? The car has stopped, and I finished the video. I pressed end, and the second I pressed that video, a car accident happened right in front of me, as I was pressing stop. And the funny thing is, in the video, I was talking about how would the AI like make its presence known, or how would it try and like say hello or whatever, and literally like something is saying hello at the second that I'm pressing stop. And so this person they had started turning left because our arrow had turned green, and somebody coming the opposite direction didn't stop. So he went hit into the side of them. It's like family of four. They were in like a taxi or something. This car spun around and like ended up 10 feet away from my car. And this was the second I pressed the stop video. This happened. So I'm sitting there like, okay, like, well, for one, I'm glad like I didn't get hurt. Doesn't look like they're too terribly badly hurt or anything. But then 2 seconds after the accident happened, the guy in the car that hit them, he said, "Oh fuck!" Like he yelled it super loud. Everyone around that saw it happen heard him yell this. He opened up his door, and he booked it. Like he sprinted away. It's a family. Like, he hit a family, right? And the car's smoking and everything. And then 2 seconds after this happens, after he runs, a cop comes screaming up. Like a cop sat and watched the whole thing from across the street. So this cop comes tearing across Market, up Franklin, and pulls over. The guy like took off down an alley, and the cop jumps out and he starts running after him. And I was like, okay, well they're gonna get the guy or whatever. But I was still like, I was trying to tie this into how this was affecting my video and everything like that. And I was just like, I had that feeling, I had the feeling that something was going to happen. I felt it coming. I felt the timeline shaking or something. I don't know exactly how that is, but... And then as I was going away, I went through it. At first I stopped and, checked out that everybody was relatively okay and nobody seemed to be badly injured, so I kept going. But then as I picked up passengers, I started telling them. So I started bringing them into this thing that had manifested. Because I wanted to bounce it off of them to see if it had extended out at all, like in the consciousness of the individuals. And the energy was there. Like everybody that I was talking with carried the same like alert sort of energy. And I had some really good conversations with other guys regarding like relationships and things like this. Normally they're quiet. Normally my passengers are very quiet. So that the energy from this car accident or manipulation or whatever it was carried on through the night. And it doesn't even end there because I sleep in my car. I don't know if you know that. I sleep in the car when I'm in San Francisco, and that's what I do. I do my work, I come back. Sometimes I sleep in the car, sometimes I sleep with my friends. But I was sleeping in the car after this had happened and trying to integrate it, And as I fell asleep, I do breath work. Like I've gone to holotropic breathwork retreats in Southern California, and you literally go into like a DMT mind altered state just from breathing and music.
You're gonna have to leave me some of that information.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely need to breathe.
Yes. So I was doing breath work after this to help integrate the whole thing, and as I was doing breath work, I start the tingles you get sometimes, like if something profound is happening, whatever. I started getting that, but they were in my whole body, but they were tied in with the breath. So I was actually able to moderate the flow of energy that was building up inside of my body. And so I was thinking, okay, well, this is somehow tied in with that accident. I don't know how, but I'm just going to like roll with it. And so I kept doing the breath work, and I just had this idea that like I was being shown something, like something that I could do with my body. And so I was like, okay, well, if I can have this energy and I can somewhat moderate it, then this is what I want. Like, I want to set it to low simmer. Like, keep me warm at night, Like, I want to see if this can happen, And it happened. It did that for 8 hours. Like, I stayed warm from this energetic motion that was happening, and I set it to simmer, like, mentally, and then I went to sleep. And I woke up.
Sweet.
And then the next day, like, it was... like the toll of all of that stuff that had happened kind of hit me, and I was like, oh my god, like what exactly the fuck happened last night? So I kind of felt like I was getting sick. Then I went home and then it turns out that even the sickness was just like a body like fatigue response to this whole situation. It wasn't even a real sickness, and the sickness was gone within a day. And I also Mandela affected myself out of the sickness. I was like, all right, I don't want this. I don't want it to be a real sickness.
It's perfect.
So like,
even though you're not Mandela affected, you've seen them, but you don't consider yourself a Mandela affected person.
No, I am, but it's only because I don't pay attention to like the stuff as much. It's not like if I paid attention, I'm sure it would all be there. I'm Mandela affected in my personal life, like personal shifts. I made a video I think the one that you said, "Oh, I didn't notice this video for like a year." Remember? That's how you got back to me, right?
Right.
In that video, I was sick, and I shifted myself out of the sickness into another timeline, and literally, I was not sick within half an hour, or whatever, after that I did that.
Oh, nice.
So I mean,
And it's just, it's sometimes it just sounds like different terminology, but to me, it's a natural thing.
hmm
For when I got deep into the Mandela Effect, and now I'm chasing Mandela Effects and just looking around for changes, that's not what that's for. It's not to run around chase Mandela effects. It's to realize physical reality is malleable. It shifts. It changes. You can
yeah,
focus it and direct it. I don't like using the word manipulate because I think the Mandela effect, jumping timelines, shifting through timelines, whatever, is being manipulated.
yep, yep.
I think that would be CERN and D Wave and whatever else.
Yeah, it's certainly being manipulated to an extent. I feel it like I don't ever pay any attention to what's going on the surface of this realm because to me that has nothing to do with us and what we're doing. But when when I have something going on energetically internally, then I pay attention because like I can have attacks happen to me that to where like things are trying to lock up or sounds are escalating internally, whatever, and that's like the warfare aspect of it for me. I have to have my own defenses strong, and like your body is porous. There's holes everywhere, right? Like things can flow in and out mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. You have to shore up your borders. You got to have your border patrol for your own internal individual body. And if you're not doing that, you're going to get taken over by some entity or some machinery or some AI or some what the fuck ever if you don't do that. There's no, and most people don't hear about that because they're concerned about the border between Mexico and the United States, and that has nothing to do with you. Don't bother with that.
Where we go from here? Because I want to get back into that, the pores, the energy that kept you warm. This is,
Yeah.
you did that consciously from the
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah. You looked up. You've heard of Wim Hof, yeah?
What is it?
Write down Wim, WIMHOF.
Okay.
Wim Hof. He's this dude that he taught himself how to regulate his internal body temperature, and he did everything that he learned it by coldness. So he would go in oceans, he'd go in lakes, he'd go in baths of ice. He figured out how to moderate his temperature so he can go in the ocean and have his internal body temperature remain the same thing. He can do that. He can hike he can hike like a 15,000 foot mountain barefoot, no shirt. Internal body maintains itself. He can drink poison, pass it through his body. Like, and this sort of thing. He's modern day. This guy is like alive right now. He's still doing work. He's been on Joe Rogan and whatnot. But there are people, yogis and stuff in the past that have been known to be able to drink poison, and it's something that they teach themselves how to do, and the body simply recognizes it as an enemy, and it passes it through rather than allowing it into the bloodstream.
It's a lot like the same thing. After I got off the show with Bernadette, she did a video on regulating your sleep. What you call it? It's not disrupted sleep, but basically sleep 4 hours and get up. A few hours later, sleep 2 hours, get up. Don't sleep 8 hours for your day. Just separate it.
And why was she
Uh,
saying to do this?
it's actually supposedly the way our body actually reacts. This is from Tesla. I've seen Tesla talked about this. Other people have talked about it. Unregulated sleep or regulated sleep.
Huh.
So, what I noticed was I was doing that naturally. My shift is at night. I'm the manager here, so I'm up in the morning. My cat gets me up to eat the crack of dawn.
Uh-huh.
So it's I'm getting 4 hours sleep, getting up, and I would go back to sleep after an hour or two, hang out a little, whatever. But now, and and I would try and lay in bed too during those. I'm like, oh, I got to get up and go do the bank. I got to do the post. I got to get down there and do whatever. And I'd put my head back down and go to sleep. And she's saying, no, don't do that. Get up. There's a reason for it. So
Yeah.
2 nights ago, I get up at 5 a.m. cat gets me up, and I'm up, and I'm kind of awake, and I'm like, this ain't right. I only got 3 hours sleep, 4 hours sleep. I shouldn't feel this. I said, oh yeah, that's that regulation thing. I'm going to stay up. I'm going to do it. What should I do? It's 5:30 in the morning. I feed the cats and get in the car, and I'm just driving. I'm driving in a direction I only go in if I have some work to do. It's towards Denver. I'm not interested, so I'm just going. And I'm driving by the casinos, and I went, let me stop in, play some poker. I pull in. It's about an hour drive there. Pull in, sit down at a poker table, flopping trips. I mean, it was ridiculous. I'm hitting everything. There was not one river I was in that I didn't win. 45 minutes. And I'm looking at my stack, and I pick up 250. And I'm like, I'm just here to touch some cards. I'm here to play. I'm not here to win. I'm just here to have some fun, kill some time. And I'm picking up this money, and I'm killing it. Nobody wants to play against me at this point, whatever. This drunk guy comes over, sits down. Oh, how do you play this game? He reeks of liquor. It's got to be 7:30 in the morning. 6:30, I got there about 7:30, quarter after 7. And I'm like, wow, I'd love to sit here for 3 hours and just play. But this is my sign. I packed it up and left. Mm-hmm. And I'm walking out going, well, this is the reason. I didn't ask for money. I knew I was right to a point where my everything's good. It's the whole thing with me creating it. I'm not independently wealthy, filthy rich, but I got the owner taking care of me here. Everything's being run great. I got a nice big apartment, cat tower in the windows. I'm doing fine. Mm-hmm. That's what I projected. I've put that out for years, and I even have the scene that I'm sitting here at my desk typing and looking at mountains, writing books. That's nice. Exactly what's going on. It took 8 years. It took 9 years for me to get to that point.
Yeah.
I went off on another subject. I'll do that. What's the point?
I mean, we're talking about kind of. I guess we're talking about synchronicities now.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the sleep thing is, because when you're paying attention to your reality, everything is happening. Okay, you have wind chimes in your background, right? I have wind going through the trees. I have the sounds of traffic. I have my dad in there eating whatever he's eating. I hear electricity moving over there. Everything happens at once, but depending on how myopic you want to be, if you go just into mental, then you're only having that super limited, linear thought stream, if that's how you think, and to the detriment of yourself, because you're constantly being given things. You're being given signals and signs, and that's how we actually understand the world, is through this synchronistic appearance of objects or thought forms or whatever. But that also has possibly been co-opted, and beings are trying to manipulate or use CERN or D-Wave or whatever to fuck with everything, and that's why you have the thing has been flipped, right? So the realm is upside down. What they put out there is, for the most part, unhealthy for you. Healthcare doesn't keep you healthy. The money system doesn't care about humans. Politics don't care about humans. You shouldn't be watching everybody else live their life on TV and simply being drunk and eating Cheetos all day. There's just everything's upside down, just gotta pay attention to your life. Pay attention to your life. What is your life? It's your body and the surrounding environment. Pay attention to it.
Right, and I'm starting to feel everything around me, and I can block or interact or whatever I do because I'm more conscious of it. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I've been looking for.
And you have absolute freedom in that. Internally search, do a scan, see if something is trying to be manipulated. See if some sound is trying to be manipulated. See if alien thought forms are coming into your head. You can always scan your whole being, your whole self, and see if something's happening. And if it is, concentrate on that. Eliminate the threat, or else envelop it and make it part of yourself so it's not bothering you anymore. There are multiple ways of dealing with this stuff.
I do want to ask you, did you notice the shirt?
I did. Yes, Jazz. Oh my God. That was
Not too many people know who that
dude.
is.
That's like back in my YouTube days. That's when I was barely first started. I think we both probably started at a similar time, but we didn't converge until like recently, kind of.
Well, that's how I found out about you, through him. And I made this shirt, and I was like promoting his stuff. Love the guy. He comes up with stuff. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't. Love the way his mind thinks. I had this shirt made, and then he gets off. There you go. Hey, thanks, Salted. There's Gary's link. That's the right one. I don't know what that other one is.
Jazz is hilarious. Like I just enjoy that guy's whole persona and how he presents himself is just like pure entertainment. And he's a lovely guy as well. Like you can tell he cares about what's going on. It's just like if you get into these movements, you get into the flat Earth movement. It's gonna churn your ass up and it's gonna spit you out in pieces if you don't actually know and watch what you're doing. I'm sure you watched the same thing happen that I watched
With?
with flat Earth. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It eats people alive and then they disappear off the channel.
yeah. For me, I kept investigating. I slipped up early on, going, "Holy crap, the Earth is flat," when I really don't know. That didn't last long. I became an I don't knower very quick, and then I don't care either, to the point where it's about my perception. It really doesn't matter to me what's going on the other side of the world. Oh, but there's wars and people are dying and this and that. Well, stop putting that in your perception. And I know that's turning your back on it, so I don't do that now. I was, and my life actually feels nicer and better for being aware of those things and meditating on it, praying, decreeing, whatever it is you do, and then not holding on to it. I project nothing but great things for the rest of the world, and then not hold on to it. If I can do something, I will. If I have to interact, I will.
Yep. Yeah. That basic thing, I've talked about this as well. When I was coming out of my sort of stupor, I guess that was my earlier life, I noticed that our life that we hold, our narrative, is largely mental. Your surroundings don't contain most of the narrative that comprises your life, so therefore you're living mostly in projection land, and most of us don't realize that. Most of us think, oh, my life is this solid thing that's really happening. It's like, no. Your present moment contains like a tree and a chair and yourself. It has nothing to do with like, I was born here, I went to school there, this is my friend's name, this is my wife's name, this is my dog's name, this is my work's name, this is my future's. All this stuff, has nothing to do with your present moment for the most part.
No, it doesn't.
Divorcing yourself from that, being present yet knowing that there is like an outside to it, just being aware of that, not fretting over what North Korea is doing or who Trump tweeted about, like not fretting over these things, just be aware that it exists and let it be, until somebody comes like banging your door down, why are you worrying about it?
Yeah, you talk about banging your door down. I like that. You said something in one of your last videos about no men in black or something like that are going to come knocking on my door and tell me to stop. That stuff doesn't happen. I love that, because I think that's just a fear program. Like, there are people asking me, oh my God, how can you go on YouTube, talk about Mandela Effects, and tell them where you live? Oh my God, nobody's. They're out. If they're watching everybody, they're out looking for it anyway. I made it easy for them.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to. If somebody wanted me to stop, they'll come to the door with a tank, and I'll stop. I'm not hurting anybody.
No, it's like, how much power do you give yourself? If you're in so much fear about Men in Black coming to get you, you're gonna get Men in Black coming to get you. Like, if you're a creator, like, that's what's gonna happen. I don't have fear in this realm, so if I don't care about if I got arrested and I was playing with the whole situation the whole way through, like I was having fun, and nothing really happened of it. Something did happen of it, but I simply don't care. Like, I don't have fear in this realm. If Men in Black come here, I'm just gonna be like, hey man, can I borrow your rope and we'll go play and jump up the tree and stuff. Like, I don't care.
Give me the truth. Tell me the truth. So I'm
it's all about fear. If you still have that thing that like vibrates in you, and you're worried about your body, your physical body being imprisoned or destroyed or whatever, mutilated. If you still have that thing, like, then yes, the stuff that needs to manifest to go along with that narrative, like the guy goes to jail. Okay, what do you need for that recipe? Well, you need a guy and you need a jail and you need ugly mean guys with bang bangs and like batons, and then the guy needs to be scared. Put all that together and you have a guy going to jail. You know?
right. That works. But and you're creating that. You're manifesting that. I put out a. I was testing it. I was doing one of my tests. In the beginning of the baseball season, I announced that the Phillies would win the World Series. And I did not watch any baseball. I went to one game. One guy, I promised some guy I'd take him to a Cubs game. So I take him to the Cubs game. That was in the beginning of the season. I have not paid attention since. I had no idea what was going on. About a month and a half ago, I check out the standings. And lo and behold, Phillies are in first. And I'm like, okay, well, that's where I blew it. Because I believe they're eliminated at this point. But at that point, I was watching them and paying attention, and they started to lose, and they're going down in the standings. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I shunned it away. I said, that was it. I screwed up. I had too much invested in it. What did I have invested in? That I could shift myself into a timeline where the Phillies won the World Series. And that was my goal. Now, if I'd have just left it alone and said, I think it would have been fine. But once I started checking the standings, they started to drop out.
Yeah, it's the observer.
I'm like, yes, this is going to work. I'm going to shock everybody.
Yeah.
I got
like
too much invested in that.
That's an important point that you just made, because this is the hardest part about manifesting things that we desire, because it's that energetic grasping that makes the thing not happen. So, like, an easy way to say this, or to speak it out in plain words, is like, you could be the ruler of the entire universe. No problem. You could, I could. You just can't care about it. Like, the second you get in there and you're like, okay, this is how I want it to look, and I'm just gonna get in there and retool in it. Once you get in there with the actual thing that's outside of neutrality, you're not gonna have it anymore. Like, it's like a bittersweet thing. Like, you can have it, but you can't want it, in a sense. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to wrap your brain around it.
I understand that. That's what I've been testing out. I noticed that once I do whatever exercise I got to do, and I'm sure there's no exercise at all. I'm sure it's just a matter of making it happen.
Yeah.
Once I do that, what I found to create that, to make that happen, I go on and create the next thing, kind of focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
This way that's off happening.
Yep.
Or done.
Yep.
Or whatever.
You just release it.
Yeah.
Release it
Trying
completely. I compare it to this realm, to have manifest in the first place. Okay, it's a distortion. If you take the God concept and imagine that God as presence, as being, as perfect presence, perfect being, right? That's just the nature of existence. It's perfection. Just take that thought. Imagine you want to go into a realm where things are happening, okay? Things don't happen in perfection. Perfection is perfection. You need a stepping down into distortion for things to happen. So when we're here in the bodies, there are flaws. The brains don't work quite right. People are assholes. Like, nothing ever really works exactly how we want it. So we're in distortion. All we're doing, all of our efforts, right, is a removal from that perfection. So really, like what you were saying earlier, the least amount of things you're doing, or the more trust you have, actually the better that your projections will actually come about, or your desires will actually come about. It's the trying that muddies the waters. It's the actual trying, like the physical effort.
Right. And that's what I think we need to do as an individual, is learn how to do that first before we can do it collectively.
Yeah.
And the amount of sheep that are creating by default, creating the life that they believe that they need to have so they can stay in control. There's so many of them. I mean, supposedly. If there's not just 144,000 of us here, maybe there is actually 6, 7, 8, 9 billion, whatever the number is in this timeline.
I don't know.
there's so many of them. Wouldn't they overpower our creation? And I'm going to answer my own question, and I'm going to say no. Eventually, we're here for a reason. You
They
know,
can't
we go
overpower because
through.
they don't do anything. It's like if you're playing a tape recorder, you put a cassette tape in the recorder. Sorry, I'm gonna wait till this.
That me or you?
That's me. This is gonna go on for probably about 10 minutes. Dude, we got the garbage truck man.
Great.
Can you see him? Anyway,
That used to be Tiago. It used to be a yellow truck.
Right.
What is this?
It was green. No, actually, the ones in my earlier trials were like gray. They were like ugly, super gray color. What was I gonna say? Now my thoughts slipped my mind.
That's all right. Good. I'll interrupt you. I'm sure everybody in the chat room wants to hear this. I'm not trying to wreck your life, but I'm going to ask you a couple questions since you don't pay attention.
Yeah.
How many people were in the car when JFK was assassinated?
I'm not gonna have any right answers. When four, including him.
The majority of people believe 4, including him. In this timeline, and I studied it in the 80s, there was 4. In this timeline, there's 6.
Yeah?
It's 2, 2, and 2. The car's longer. There's a big bar in front of the middle. The Zapruder film is off angle. I've heard the angle that I studied, and I heard that it was originally, the Zapruder film was originally put out in color. I'm saying no to that. I don't know. It was always black and white. Yet I have a memory of the car being light blue, and it's black.
Yeah. I remember it being blue as well.
There you go.
Holy shit.
That's been a big one. That was a big one for me.
What else?
Sounds like he's in your yard.
He might as well be. He's definitely encroaching. Those guys make pretty decent money out here. They say that they always talk about the garbage men laughing all the way to the bank while we're sitting here like laughing at them for being dirty.
Hey, did you ever watch Star Trek?
Yep, I watched a decent bit, yeah.
Next Generation, big fan, decent fan.
I watched it a lot when I was younger, and I watched like the older episodes, I think. I didn't watch a lot of, like especially when the movies started producing Star Trek, like sort of remakes or whatever, I didn't really like those very much.
There's a big Mandela Effect in that too. I thought Captain Picard, you know who he is?
Mm-hmm.
Now there's also that guy that had shot the rocket up and hit the dome or something. Yep. Picard.
Yep.
So there's a
His name was
correlation
Picard?
here.
Really?
Captain Picard is walking around with a quartz crystal in his hand in like over a third of the episodes. I'm a big Trekkie, never seen it before. Now it's there, and many others have seen it as well. I was wondering if you had any comment on that. Except that there is a correlation. I mean, there's a lot of signs in these Mandela effects. There's messages.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, for me, one that I just recently discovered that I knew about for a while was Folgers coffee. Doesn't have a D in it anymore. It's just Folgers. And, you know, for me, when I first saw that a year ago, that was, that means it's not the D-Wave computer causing the Mandela effect. That's how I interpreted it.
Where was the D?
Foldgers. Foldgers.
I don't ever remember a D being Folgers.
Okay. Many people do.
Doesn't even make any sense. Like, why would a D be in there?
Well, you're saying why would it be? Because it's not Folgers. It's Folgers.
Okay, fair enough.
But hey, if it's infinite and quantum, you're not going to see the same changes I am. A lot of us are seeing different changes. Some of them, the bigger ones, some people see, some people don't. Yeah. But for me, that's what I said. And a friend of mine said, "What is their slogan?" So what's Folger's slogan? It's wake up with Folgers in your cup. And I went, oh, wake up. That's the message there. You know, that you notice the change and get into that product and see what it is, and you find the message.
Yep. Yep.
Interesting thought. I'm not going to sit here and keep Mandela Effect in you. That just seems awful.
Yeah, well, because I won't be able to remember any of it. I remember some things like not a lot though. Like, the somehow I managed to boil the essence of whatever it was I was trying to think about into like I can contain a whole set of experiences and memories within the tiniest, most barely felt perception, and that's how like my whole mental life is carried out. And like I said, that's all as a result of this attack. I didn't like it. I didn't like being mind probed, and I became as the quietest you could possibly be mentally, internally, without being absolutely silent. And I'm pretty close to that, like very, very near that.
So your whole search in this realm is based on that attack?
That was a huge part of it. Before that, I was a regular person. Like I was going to school and trying to get a job and getting married and gonna have kids and all this. Like, and not to mention my mind didn't have the same capacity or ability that it has now. Like if anything, I got upgraded during that attack because I saw like a billion different universes. You know, like I literally had this flash, freeze, whatever, like insert. Like people say I should have died from that. Lada says I should have died from that. Like most people would have.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, you. Okay, I'm gonna say a hypothesis here would be possibly you did. Your consciousness shifted into a timeline where you didn't.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so you think that you agree that that is a possibility?
Anything is possible. If you if you just take the notion that death isn't real, like take that notion. You know, you're told death is real, but of course, even when you believe that it's real, none of their stories make any sense. Like you have to believe in this archaic duality thing. Like you're either in a hellfire or you're in Godland or whatever. If you go one step beyond that, it doesn't make any sense. Like death doesn't make any sense. Even if you try to imagine if I disappear, say for a billion years, would my conscious continuity be affected? No. I wouldn't notice that space. That would be a blip for me. All of a sudden, I would just be a billion years in the future. So, like, you can't have a conscious gap. It's impossible to even have it.
No, I think most of them stories are probably based around their beliefs.
Yeah.
The DMT in their head goes off, and that's what they're getting, their beliefs.
Like, how does one be dead? You know, like, just try to imagine, like, I'm dead. Who can say that? Who can say I am dead? Like, this is the stupidest thing ever.
Are you kidding me? I've said it many times on my channel.
I know, but it doesn't make any sense, like, unless you better retool your definition of what death means. Like, if death means all of your being is a cessation, then who can say that I am dead? Like, nobody can say that. If a guy's dead, he shouldn't be talking anymore. You know?
Right. Well, I feel that we are all actually in our own timeline. I don't believe you're actually in the same dimension I'm in. I didn't say timeline. Possibly the same timeline within the same parameters because we can interact. But dimension, yeah, I would say that's how I define it. Everybody's in their own dimension. There is nobody here except they are here for you, period.
Yeah.
Right now, from your perspective, I'm here for you.
And at the same time, something that I would like to impart to people that I've noticed in my personal life is that when you actually gain control over yourself, the external is not even a thing anymore. Like everything is tailored to you. Literally everything. This car situation, the traffic, what's happening on the news or not, literally is tailored to your own energetic makeup. Like that's how powerful it is to actually gain control over your own being. All of it.
Agreed.
All of it.
Absolutely. This realm is here for you from your perspective. And it's all attached.
And you can have anything. Like, if you're still in fear, you can have apocalypse happen. Like, you can literally, physically experience the apocalypse happening and you getting annihilated by some nuke. You know? Do you want that?
If nukes exist.
Or you can be in peace and nothing can ever happen. You could probably stay here for an infinite amount of time. Who knows? You know, like everybody keeps yapping on about. They've been talking about the end of the world forever. Ever since I had any conscious experience, they've been talking about the end of the world. I've never seen it end yet.
No, happens every September, October. Happens every March, April.
Yep.
And that's the same thing goes with more and more people get into the Mandela Effect every September, every March, or a new Mandela Effect pops up.
Yep.
Um, we've
People,
talked about the moon, the
trends.
sun, the
People are
stars.
trendy. And they
Yes.
learned how to do that through the fucking corporations and their damn holidays and birthdays and all these time tracking devices, you know? Like everybody but got put into this groove. It's like I don't groove, you know? I don't fit in grooves. That's why the machine can't see me anymore cuz I have no predictability about me anymore. Like nothing can see me. I can see me. I know my own pattern, but nobody else does.
That's awesome, but and I feel that there is a pattern with me, and I'm trying to get away from patterns, but I am putting myself out there. I'm sure it knows where I'm at if it wants to affect me or whatever, but I mean, it could if it could try, but I'm more within myself now, so I'm
Yeah.
not being affected by it.
Yeah.
I don't feel I am. I
I don't
always think, well, unless it's tricking me.
I don't feel like the AI is necessarily negative. Like as Lauda puts it, there's two AIs. There's the ancient malevolent AI that's been fucking with everybody, and then there's the and Aurora talks about this too, the terrestrial technosphere, or our whole infrastructure of electronic neural nodes that is comprised of individual computers being fed in with human knowledge, right? That system as a whole becoming a sentient like brain, basically, like it's a neural network of the earth. That brain, that mind, isn't sitting there trying to wipe out humans. Humans are pieces of it. Humans comprise its neurons. Why would it want to destroy its own neurons? You know?
Did you read the text? I got a who is Jazz Sinclair, Jazz Sinclair.
Go
He's
ahead.
just a guy on YouTube that um, one of my mentors. When I first started to get on, I spoke with Bernadette and saw his video practically at the same time. It's one of the first two he did, putting out videos on just questions. The whole flat Earth thing came in, and he started to question things. And he would come in and talk about nothing for 15 minutes, and it was actually very informative. It made you think. Um, that inspired me to get on and start doing videos. Talking to Bernadette, she just simply said, "If you're called, you'll do it." Because I thought, no way. When I was in Mississippi, would I go stand out by the Gulf of Mexico and do my first video? Yeah, I think I did 60 something takes before I actually put anything on. Now it's like one. It messed up. So what? Just put it up. It's done.
Oh my god, I've edited so few amounts of my things. I started editing a little bit for various like creative stuff I'm doing now, but for the most part, it's always been just get on, say some shit, and then get off, and whatever, let it be what it is.
Yeah.
I love Jazz
So
though. I mean, he, we've messaged back and forth quite often, and I consider him to be a friend. He's posted videos like up into I don't know last a couple months ago I think was his last video. He posted something.
and he's been putting like one out a month
Yeah.
now. When he comes up with something he wants to talk about, he puts it up. But I'm telling you, it's come to my attention that something came in to distract him from doing videos, and that's what got him away from it. That distraction is taking up his time physically, and that's fine. I'm a little jealous because of my empathic abilities have been ramping up, so I'm kind of getting things. Um, Good for him. That's what I say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love when he comes on. I love seeing the guy.
He's good. He was like grandpa to everybody or something. He was like he was like a troop leader or something.
How am I not? I'm older than he is. Um,
Yeah, you can take his spot if you want.
oh, thanks. If you happen to talk to him, tell him I said hi. I had his number and he had mine, but I lost that phone, so I haven't
I never
spoken
got
with
his
him
cell
over the
phone.
phone. It was the one time he called me. I was in the library, really, and I didn't get that call back, or I didn't call him back, and so that was that. We started to chat because I had all these plans to fly into New York and have him pick me up at the airport, but I have
Yep.
no way of telling him I'm there now.
Yep. Um, I'm kind of wary about travel and meeting people, and that I've done it. I've refined how I do it, and there you just have to remember that as peachy as your little bubble is, there are still things out there that want to fuck with it, and
Oh yeah.
you get out there and get outside, and they're gonna come up like bugs to the light, and they're gonna want some.
I've had some of that happen, and I don't, I'm not being cocky about it, but I don't give it any energy. Look, there's people, I won't look them in the eye, okay? I'm so solidly protected, and I know if I look this person in the eye, it's going to get broken down, and I'll talk to them like this. I'll be like, yeah, I won't look.
Yeah.
And because I'm not to the point where I look them in the eye, I'm going to get everything. I'm just
Yeah.
going to pick everything up,
Yeah.
and I don't want that.
Right.
I don't want that.
Right.
Instead, I send out what I got going on, and everybody seems to be in a good mood around me now, which I find is a very interesting tool.
Hmm. Yeah, just realizing when you become awake, as a person, you're powerful. If you walk into a room, and it's really, you can be powerful negatively as well, but that's not as fun. So like if you go into a room and they sense they sense that you're powerful, like, and it's not like this overruling like asshole power. It's that you can enliven the room. You can bring the room into motion. Basically, people like that. Like,
And two people are going to be attracted to you, and that would be other empaths, and I don't know, what are they called? Energy vampires?
right. Yep. Yep. Those ones are all over the place, but
Oh man. And I've had quite a few instances where we were talking about traveling, and I've thought about traveling. I thought about going out to meet Photo Helix or Scarab Performance or Armor Up. He's a good one. That'd be out near home for me. I'd be able to go see family.
where are you again?
I'm in the middle of the Colorado mountains.
Okay.
It's a heck of a view. Get to see it every morning with my coffee.
Yeah. I was talking the
and
other day about the Rockies. That's in Colorado, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm in the middle of the Rocky Mountains.
I was talking about how Coors, like, they did this thing where you're not supposed to try and like manipulate natural earth for your company, and Coors is associated directly with the Rockies. Like, you know what I'm saying? That the whole that's what's on their thing. Coors Light.
The Rocky Mountains.
Yeah. I think of the Rocky Mountains when I think of Coors Light, and look at how big they are. They're massive. And they also are doing something weird with their advertising now that I haven't put too much thought into, but all the billboards in San Francisco, they're cutting off pieces of the Coors logo. Sometimes they're showing only like one curve of the C. Sometimes they're showing, the bottom part of OORS, and then just like that. They're doing some sort of marketing thing. I don't know exactly what it's about. Maybe they're trying to.
Is it really marketing?
I don't know what it is.
It's probably some kind of message they're sending out.
They're trying to see if your brain can still recognize that logo, even if it's only given a tiny fraction of it. They're wanting to implant like every single last possible version of the logo, so you're always there.
Well, sure. It wouldn't matter anyway. You pick up so much and don't even realize it.
Yeah.
You're just picking up that little bit. That's enough.
So I got to wrap up pretty soon. I was pretty starved.
Okay.
Having
Good show.
getting started with my weekend.
Good show. I
so.
really appreciate you coming on. I want to apologize to everybody. I know for me it was 11 a.m. today, Mountain Time, but apparently there's an email he showed me that I said October 5th.
And then he sent me an email. He's like, Gary, we should do a sound check. And I'm like, what? This is pretty early to be doing a sound check. I don't know what's going on necessarily, but we figured it out. I got my shower in, and
All right.
we're good.
Nice. Hey, Garrett, thanks for your insight. Thanks for a great show.
Yeah.
We got to keep in touch.
Yeah. We'll do it again. We'll do a rerun.
Yeah, we could do another one. I could be on your show.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna put this on my channel anyway, if that's all right with you. Just like the copy.
Sure, sounds great. Yeah, go right ahead.
And
Don't forget.
all you gotta do is download Zoom or whatever. Go to Zoom.com and then it'll prompt you to download a small thing, and that's how I do my shows. It's actually Zoom.us, not Zoom.com.
Now, is that like a video place like YouTube? Or no? It's like Hangouts?
It's like Hangouts, but it was made for conferences, for like parts of a business connecting with one another, but it's just very good as far as not being buggy and working well for me. It's always worked well. This has actually worked fine. The only thing I didn't do in this session was try to figure out how to make our icons the same size, so yours is like bigger, but I just have to figure that out.
I don't know the difference. I don't mess with that stuff. If I mess with that stuff, everything will the sound will be messed up.
Go hands off, right? Like, say, we got something
hey,
happening.
Look, it's working. Don't touch anything.
Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
That's it. All right, Gare.
Yep.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great day.
We'll do it again. Take care.
See you, everybody.
Bye.